unusable.
I swear, our stream just got interrupted for no goddamn reason.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Anyone, would you believe this shit? You fucking believe this shit?
Did we get zucked?
I mean, I don't know what happened. Something took us down, and now we're back up again. But it's like not the first one. Oh, whatever.
Jesus Christ.
Looks where you can't just say libertarian shit at midnight. Get ready to be a cell phone person.
I'm speaking against the all-powerful Google while using Google Chrome, and they're not happy about it.
Oh yeah, they heard you. They heard about like, oh man, I don't know. I'm hyped for that technology, though. I'm ready to be a robot. I don't think people understand how crazy it's gonna get.
I know you're not a movie person, but have you seen Grandma's Boy?
Yeah, where's the game developer?
Yeah, JP. He talks like a robot all the time, dressed like Neo from the Matrix.
Adios for nuggets. Yeah, I'm gonna be that guy. I got a trench coat somewhere.
The future has endless possibilities, and that's what we're most excited for.
Damn right, man. I just want a grappling hook in my hand and just climb up buildings.
Just go full Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, why not? Just everybody could choose the superpowers they want. Like if you're a scuba diver, you just get some propellers built into your legs. If you like to fly, and you could get some jets built in. So I don't know. Dude, everybody can choose what they need to do.
Think of the actual applications of something like this. So look at like long term, like when we talk about body augmentation. Imagine being able to throw your voice at will based on vocal patterns. You program people kill for the British accent, but or different inflictions of voice that they can never accomplish or it takes years to accomplish. And imagine just downloading that program like you download a new voice for Google Maps. You just go full on.
Or take it one step further, as Larry Sharp would say.
Yeah.
Take it one step, a language downloaded. Like, I speak Spanish now.
Yeah, but like, oh, I speak Spanish. Or think about the applications though of being able to, pull through vocal databases of being able to copy people's voices. Take prank calling to a whole new level.
I was gonna say, you just call somebody as their own mother. Oh, fuck their dad.
Just get on the phone, like call up a random person. Hey, Tom. Use your name, Tom. Yeah. Hey, it's your wife. What's the ATM? What's the ATM number?
And I'd like to thank you very much for going to work today. Me $400. Great. The Obama scam.
No, I just start calling people and sound like, that stereotypical, scam telemarketer. That way, I can answer telemarketer calls and they're like, oh, crap, I called somebody down the hall.
Yeah, man. I always actually gotten some of them to get really sad. Like, it's like you start, fuck with, dude, you realize you're stealing from people, right? Like, you're stealing from old people who are old and they're dying and you're taking their money. Like, you're a piece of shit. And I've gotten some who just and there's no money here and I don't know what the fuck to do. I was like, oh man, I kind of feel for that. Like, that sucks. I want to hate you, but now you're just stealing because your country's poor.
Yeah. Well, that's you remember, were you ever big into the AOL chat rooms and Yahoo chat rooms back in the day, the early days of internet?
Oh yeah.
Me and a buddy of mine, we were up one weekend. And he had just got a brand new computer. So, of course, we're 11, 12, I don't know, somewhere in that age. And he's like, man, we could go on this Yahoo chat. He's like, so we're sitting there Yahoo chatting. He gets hit up by one of those spam bots, oh, hey, I'm a, girl, you should come check out my webcam link. And my friend Eddie went ham on this, what we thought was just a robot, because like it would just have like generic text and like sending links and stuff, and like I mean, like dude, he said some like harsh shit to this like bot, and then all of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, we get a reply. Hey, look, I understand like this is annoying, but I'm literally just doing my job. Like I don't get paid if I don't hit on people. Jesus. We felt so terrible because here we were just like saying like the most hurtful crap in the world. Like you get hit with 500-600 spam bots like in a chat room. So we're just like just joking around, and then all of a sudden we find out this quote unquote spam bot's like a real person, and it really made me like take a step back on like online interaction. But like, how many of these people are actually probably real? Just copying and pasting, script that they're told to do. Like, I mean, I know now, like, now spam bots are more prevalent, but I wonder if in the earlier days, a lot of it was just actual real people copying and pasting.
I spent a fair amount of time actually talking to those chat bots to try to see what you could coax out of them. Did you see, I think it was in China, there was a story about one of those chatbots started saying anti-communist shit, and it got banned. It was a chatbot that they'd worked on, and after it learned from talking to the people in China, like it's spouting stuff against, ban it. It's that crazy, man.
Yeah, that was just recently. Like that was within the past couple of years, because it was similar to the artificial intelligence program that Microsoft did with the 16-year-old girl chatbot that they did.
That sounds like trouble.
Yeah. So first off, my question for Microsoft is, who the fuck, like when you're making a chatbot, who's like, well, like we gotta create a personality for this AI. Who likes 16-year-old girls? Like you're sitting in a room of old men, and all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden somebody throws out the idea, well, let's make our chatbot a young girl. Who does that? Like, but
who to fire that guy? Whoever brought that.
They're like, hey, Jim, we're scrubbing your hard drive after this. Like, we might
it's
be
not
calling
you, it's us.
Yeah, like, we might be scrubbing your hard drive, and we might be calling the authorities. But regardless, like even if obviously there was probably no malice involved, and I'm assuming they went for a younger style of AI to have that like innocence of human interaction. But within like an hour of it being on Twitter, like it became anti-Semitic, and like like it got bad because it was trained to learn from the interactions online. And of course, like the 4chan community, I would blame for it largely, just went in there and started saying a bunch of anti-Semitic, pro-Nazi stuff, and all of a sudden the 16-year-old chatbot, like all of a sudden the 16-year-old chatbot after like 30 minutes is like, the Jews are the problem for every, the answer to every problem. And it's like, whoa, back up. Like, what? No, Microsoft shut it down very quickly.
That's fucking weird, man.
Yeah, dude, it's really interesting. Like, you should read up on it sometime. Like the program, I think putting it in, putting these kind of programs into these social spaces, have it like obviously has its pros because it gets a real human element to it versus just training like training an AI in a lab. But at the same time, there's a lot of negative connotation to it because we just look at some of the shit that goes on social media, stuff that people would never say in person, and it warps the AI, and then it's the program's junk.
We're going to have to start thinking of AIs the way we think of children. Like, we have to be careful what they learn. You don't want them to just learn bad words at the wrong age, or they'll just repeat them. You don't want them to learn anti-Semitic shit, because then they're just going to spout it. We're going to have.
Yeah, like I would say, if we're gonna delve into those realms of artificial intelligence and human interaction, we can put a profanity filter on, a website. We should probably do that on everything.
Yeah, I just don't know. What if the robot has rights? What if it's the right to learn whatever it wants,
Ooh.
even when distasteful?
See, I think that's a problem that within the next several years is going to have to be addressed. If what is truly sentience and what is truly inherent right. It's going to be a really interesting conversation the further artificial intelligence progresses.
Absolutely. Dude, my extra credit for philosophy tonight was a great one. I'll ask you the question. It was, if they start to replace your body parts, right? Your shoulder, your arms, and they just slowly replace you. And then eventually they start replacing your brain. Like they've replaced all of your body, and now they bit by bit, they're replacing it with silicon until eventually there's no more of the original you left. All the biological components are gone, and you are now 100% machine. All of the same memories, all of the same experiences, you still feel like you're you. This is a tough one.
Yeah, and I actually had a similar conversation with somebody the other day about this. Mine was more on a biological scale, but imagine if, for example, you were able to take the brain out of my body and put it into you. Would you still be Kevin Shaw, or would you be Jesse Fullington?
I think that only I could answer that question once I had your brain in my head.
Yeah,
My suspicion is that I'd be you.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. Like we look at what if we look at it from a standpoint of does the human body have a soul? Like, and this was the kind of like devil's advocate argument I had. I made the claim, like I said, in speaking devil advocate, if we do truly have a soul, I would feel that the brain is nothing more than a cog in a machine, and you would still be Kevin Shaw. However, if we take the notion of not having a soul, the brain is the powerhouse and hard drive of our existence. So I would be you. But whose rights are protected in that situation? Like if my body goes completely dead, and for whatever reason you need a brain, do I have the rights of both of us or just me?
You'd only be one person. You'd have the
Sure.
same rights as you would right now.
Sure, but what happens, like we can't say that Kevin Shaw is truly dead because there's his body.
We recognize that it is not just thought but the brain that constitutes personality, because you can exist but you can disappear. For example, if you suffer traumatic head injury, all of Jesse Fullington can go away in a car crash, and your body can still exist and walk around and do basic human stuff. But all the stuff, all your thoughts and memories and things that make you appear, that's not the soul. The soul wasn't contained in the prefrontal cortex. That was just physical damage to the brain, which says to me that reality, the consciousness, resides in the gray matter.
And that's a fair point. Like because I also when we were talking about the cloning of organs. Hey, what's going on, Chris?
Oh shit.
I think he's still in the green room.
I actually cannot see Kristen. Quick look here. I haven't gotten another camera yet, but oh, there it is. Oh shit. All right. Here, I can't do the can't yet, so give me a second while I get you plugged in. And to the audience, just so you know, we're talking to ourselves. This is the homeboy. We're about to add him in. Boom. Get you set up right down there in your corner. Probably gonna get right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Marshall would be proud.
Wow.
And I got this shirt, and then I got the other shirt of that other Facebook group.
Boom.
The other one, yeah. So
Is Chris
You are
actually...
officially plugged. The audience can hear you. Now he's here.
okay, very good. The video's smoother now, so that should work.
Sounded like me and Jesse were talking to ourselves like a crazy people, but welcome, Chris, to the show. We've been holding it down.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So, but back to what I was saying, Kevin. So if we look at, like this, eventuality of, cloning human organ, if we were to take just a brain, like say, look, we can grow a brain in a test tube, or obviously, a large beaker. If you go brain dead,
little skinny brain.
Do what?
Little skinny brain in a test.
Yeah, just a little skinny brain. But if we were able to factory grow these brains, if you go brain dead, we implant the brain into you. This to me is an argument of, if you are you because of the brain, or you are you because of soul. If we put that new fresh brain into you, jumpstart it, whatever, is necessary to make the brain function, are you still Kevin Shaw, or are you a brand new individual? And what rights are inherent to you, and what are, and society repercussions? Like, let's say, for example, Charles Mason goes brain dead, and we take this fresh brain and we stick it into Charles Manson. Do we treat the individual that wakes up with the same malice that society has treated Charles Manson, or do we treat him like a new person? Like, is he still Charles Manson?
Well, there would have to be, some tests, some like psychological tests done to determine whether, someone still has the same tendencies that they did immediately, like before, that they say the same ones that they did immediately before you did the surgery. And, if Charles Manson is still a, serial killer afterwards, and people still retain their sense of being or their same motivations and drives to be the person that they are, then I would say yes. I think this would be, the answer to this would be driven out of psychology. But at the same time, I want to say that someone doesn't become less of a person because they've had this done to them, because they're all biologically 100% a human being, and also their social standing is 100% a human being. But when you're talking about a prisoner, it kind of takes it to a whole different level. I agree with you. So. Yeah,
because like I said, like to me, it would be a end to the discussion of, does a soul truly exist? Because like I said, if we put a fresh brain into Charles Manson and he wakes up and he's still Charles Manson, obviously this fresh brain that has no, it's completely clean, obviously, because, we can't grow, I don't think we would be able to, grow memory or anything like that, at least not till even further down the line than just growing a brain in general. Right. So, taking this fresh brain, like if the person would they still, like I said, wake up and be Charles Manson, or would they just be a fresh, essentially vegetable at that point, because they would have no skill of their own with, a slate, a clean slate brain.
If you remove Charles Manson's brain, he's no longer Charles Manson. That's just almost provable. Like you suffer these injuries, their personality is gone. They got hit in the head too hard, and they just for the rest of their lives they exist as kind of an empty shell. It's not that the soul was damaged; it's that the personality lives up here. This is where it is. Somebody else's brain, and somehow I imagine it would be more complex than you make it seem. We'd have to preserve it in such a way that whatever constitutes consciousness and personality would carry on into the next form. I think they're working on that. I think that they're doing stuff like that already, and it's not unreasonable to say that one day we could cut out Jesse's brain, put it in Kevin's body, and I'd just be Jesse now.
Yeah, I think though, like the important thing to look at, no matter how it's done, is the repercussions in society of it. Like, let's say, for example, you sign up for this test program where if something happens to your brain, you get a new brain. How do you Like to me, it's a weird area of, you know, you're no longer you. So everything that was tied to you, you know, like let's say, for example, you have a wife and kids and you go brain dead and they put a new brain in you. And I don't give two shits about your family.
Yeah, that's not. How about this? Will make it easier to wrap your head around it. Instead of thinking about a whole nother brain, a fresh piece of gray matter, think about a computer chip. Think about, okay, your brain is decaying. We know you've got Alzheimer's. Your physical brain is decaying. And so we take a scan of your memories. We basically map out in a very advanced way whatever makes you up. And we upload it into a chip. And we replace that decaying gray matter with a computer chip. And now your personality and everything resides in here, and you still care about your wife and your children, and you still remember and act as you would have. I don't think that would diminish your sense of self. You'd still be you.
That's a fair point. Well, what do you feel? So, what is your what would be your ethical stance on the reproduction of brains?
I don't know why that would immediately be necessary. Of what use is it? Oh, perhaps I'm being hasty. Maybe there is a reason why we could grow a fresh brain for somebody, like a blank slate. Like this is basically the USB chip of brains, and we can just take. Maybe you're overly aggressive, and we can take out that bit and give you a sensible, normal. Maybe that would be advantageous for people who suffer from severe clinical depression or something. Like, oh, this bit of your brain just ain't working right. Let's give you a better one. I could see that being cool.
I don't know if I like the idea of a V chip though, because to me that's a whole market for government to stick their nose in. Like, oh, somebody's saying some anti-government shit. Let's turn that off real quick.
I'm not saying
all of us sitting here right now. That's
like all of a sudden we just like slump over. We're done. They're like, oh, hold on, we got to reprogram these guys.
Here's kind of my input on the whole, like, your whole theory of, like, we're just going to grow brains and, maybe change them out when one goes bad or, all this other kind of stuff. Though it would all depend on whether it was more economically viable to have, like, a technological device, maybe on the side of your head or something that you need to get hooked up to that would prevent Alzheimer's or keep you from going brain dead or something like that, like a pack that would just restart your brain or something like that, rather than, if that was more economically viable than actually growing a brain to replace you, then I think the moral argument might be a little bit non sequitur.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, and I would probably argue if we were going to look at, two technologies, like we're looking at, HD movie, like what was it, the HD TV
and Blu-ray, yeah.
Like obviously if we're looking at, we had these computer chips versus actual gray matter. I mean, I would feel that computer chips would win out all day long.
Well, I mean, more time and money has been invested into technology, like actual like circuit boards and that kind of stuff than it is to bioengineering.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, look at the decay life of it. I mean,
it's more efficient.
Yeah, I've got Atari games sitting over there on the shelf that the chips inside of them are like day one. Mm-hmm. Versus where as soon as the brain develops, I mean, like literally from the moment of conception, the moment of the formation of the brain, it's growing but yet dying at the same time.
And it's also not the most efficient computer that there could be. The fact is, your nervous system can only transmit signals so fast. There's actually a latency between from when it gets to like the base of your spine up to your head. If you feel like you kick something and it's sharp, it doesn't get to your brain, and it takes a second, right? You have to respond to that. A computer can do that way faster. Gold transmits electricity like boom, like the speed of light. So you could make a nervous system better than you could make a brain better than yours. And imagine, it's not just the idea of cool, I can take my consciousness and upload it into something else. So the greater implication of that is technical immortality, that I can take everything that constitutes Kevin and I can put it into a computer, and then I can for generations continue to exist. I can interact with humans. Like if I was an artist, I could continue to produce art. If I was a scientist, I could continue to think and help. And maybe you even give them a fake body. Instead of just keeping them in a computer somewhere, you actually give them a robotic frame and they just meet their great grandkids and shit. Like it'd be crazy.
But think about though, going to this model of technical mortality or immortality. what is the need for reproduction at that point? You know, like if we can live forever as a robot, you know, taking less resources, requiring less of the environment for upkeep, why would we continue to populate? Well, I mean, not saying that that is, you know, inherently a bad thing, but no, I mean but that's something to look at. You know, like what other than for pleasure, you know, for the people who still have, you know, non-robotic appendages, you know, like why would we, you know, well, why make, you know, why are we populating when I'll be around for the next 200 years?
It could be argued that it's inherent in, you know, just like being human is the need and desire, and being organic is the need and desire to reproduce. Now, if somebody it would be interesting to see, like, utility isn't necessarily the reason why we do it, of course, which is why there's a lot of, you know, if it was utility, then if you saw that the area around you, well, it looks like everybody's living in poverty and dying, well, I guess I'm not going to reproduce. Well, that doesn't happen. You know, a lot of places that are overpopulated.
Those are usually the worst.
That's usually the exact opposite, to tell you the truth. But the thing is, it'd be interesting to see if we had like someone who was technologically immortal or was given that technological immortality, if they still had that desire to reproduce, or if they just, you see what I'm saying? Like if it was an inherent desire of lust or whatever you call it.
I almost wonder though, like I'm a huge fan of 80s and 90s sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
And Kevin, have you ever seen the RoboCop movie, the original RoboCops?
Nah, I'm ignorant of pop culture, man.
Oh, man.
Kevin doesn't watch movies.
I suck.
Viewers don't know.
Chris, did you ever watch the original RoboCops?
Yes, I did.
You watched the second one where they tried to recreate the RoboCop?
Yeah, where they were growing the brain, like in that with the eyeballs all floating.
Yeah, where they took it from the criminal and, you know, like to make a better cop using a criminal, which made no sense whatsoever. But no, there was a part of it where
Criminal Minds took a more realistic approach to it. So,
yeah,
anyway.
but they you know, they were putting brains inside these robotic shells in order to, you know, obviously, you know, to recreate, you know, to make a second RoboCop. And then, but none of them worked because all the brains went insane because the brain couldn't process the fact that it was no longer human. Like, you know, like being deprived of true sensation, the brains, you know, they went like, you know, the mind went insane.
That was also the same story. I don't know if it played off it a little bit, but in the Fallout games, they have robo brains where they're robots that have brains in them. But the thing is, they intentionally had to lobotomize the brains so that wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
I think they wouldn't realize that they were a machine.
I think I think that's actually an Easter egg of Fallout. I think I remember I think I remember reading in one of a guide about that where that was a homage to RoboCop.
Yeah. Truth is, one of my most unlibertarian beliefs is that I don't think we should give immortality to everyone. I think that we as a species, probably immortality is going to be expensive. It's going to be hard to do. It's not like we'll just have ubiquitous, everyone can live forever. It'll be like maybe we've got 3 immortalities a year to give out. So how are we doing this? I say we pick the best of us. I say that we guard immortality. Obviously, I don't need to live forever. I'm not really all that good for anything. And there's a lot of people out there who just frankly fucking suck and shouldn't be anywhere near immortality. But like, dude, think, who was my example? Stephen Hawking. His body is fucking rotting away, and this man is brilliant. And if we could just keep him around a little bit longer, he could solve some shit, man. Keep exposing him to new scientific ideas. So I'm down.
I don't know though. Like I would argue, like once again, if we're going to a technical side of immortality, what is the purpose of not having everybody immortal? Like when we look at the fact that
the very one you described, if everyone lives forever, and we continue to reproduce, that's a problem. That's overpopulation.
It is. However, but like I said, if we look at it from a standpoint of if this more, you know, if this morality turns us more into a for lack of a better term, a cyborg versus an actual individual, we got to realize that somebody who is mostly robotic is not going to be as detrimental to the environment as a full human. So the argument could be made that, you know, for every one side, you know, like it takes 5 cyborgs to equal the waste of one human. So, you know, like you know, like I said, and then, you know, going further along into it, reproduction obviously probably wouldn't be carried out as much as more of society became immortal.
I wouldn't argue. I would actually argue, Kevin, that that's not necessarily an unlibertarian belief. That,
Really?
yeah, because like you said, it would be probably be costly. Maybe. I mean, it would probably cost money of some kind. You know,
Sure.
And you know, but I mean, it'd be put on the free market eventually. So,
yeah,
you know,
but the thing is, I think the libertarian perspective of that is that if, or at least capitalist perspective of that, is that, you know, some people might be able to afford it and some people might not. And as long as there was free market competition driving that, there might be several companies that will cyborgize you, you know, and
you want to go to Cyborgs or Us or
cyborgs or us, or you can
or
get
mix cyborg.
Amazon cyborg division, you know.
Yeah.
It's the reason why, you know, there's competing companies to Google right now. You know, Google being anyway, we can get into that later. But what I'm saying is that if, you know, there would be some people who could afford it. Maybe it's the Stephen Hawking's. Maybe there's a Kickstarter program to cyborgize somebody who's really smart. But I think if we're going to decide who is going to be a cyborg and who's not going to be, like the Stephen Hawkings of the world would be a good choice.
Yeah.
But there would also have to be a committee of people to decide that.
No, no, you're already bringing bureaucracy into it, and it was why I hate the idea.
That's the inherent flaw. But look, I feel like we really should be considering, from a utilitarian perspective, who are the best of us? Who are the humans?
Sure.
If you could only send 3 humans forward, like for the sake of your great grandchildren, who are the people that you're going to send forward to help their future? I mean, we should be picking the smartest. We should be picking the most gentle, the most kind. We shouldn't just let
yeah, but we're playing off of non-viable information. Like, you can't prove the morality or the intelligence of some. I mean, you can. But no, let me finish. Like, but it's all relevant to me. You know, like, I know people twice as smart to me who are still idiots compared to somebody else. To say that, oh, Mother Teresa was kind, you know, who knows? There might be, you know, some little Venezuelan lady, you know, living in, you know, the you know, in South America that might have blown Mother Teresa's kindness and generosity out of the water. Or there might be some guy in Poland who.
I understand that Mother Teresa was not a very nice woman and was, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah,
but are you in agreement, Chris? I couldn't tell.
I'm in agreement. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not a crazy person.
No, I've heard. Like, I'm not. You know, I don't subscribe to the Catholic faith, so I just know people based on what history books say, which is usually wrong.
I would put Gandhi in the same spectrum because he was like a really messed up dude in some ways. But the thing is, he was generally on like a global scale, not an individual scale, but like a global scale, a person who pushed peace and kindness and, you know, all that other great stuff. Now, the kind of hope I'm not like shutting you guys' argument out, but the thing is, like, let's try to shift gears a little bit here. What about an artist? So let's say like you have like a world-class sculptor like Michelangelo or something, and they do work with their hands. Oh, Jesse, you cut out.
Oh, shit.
Jesse cut out.
He'll be back.
Oh, here we go. Jesse's back. Yeah, okay. So he does work with their hands, an artist, if you missed it, Jesse. If they're cyborgized, you know, how is it are they gonna still continue to make art in their mind and share that with the world? And is it as great as if the statue actually exists? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it kind of favors people who make a living off of just their thoughts rather than their creation.
Consider how good virtual reality is getting. And then if we still had Michelangelo, he could be crafting digital sculptures that could be 3D printed. He could be, you know, inventing crazy, like the tools that would be available to him now. Imagine giving Michelangelo Photoshop. Like, I mean, what the fuck would he come up with? Who knows? I would love to keep artists around too.
But it's still the same way, because like with artists, you know, some of them, I've seen like painters that don't use paintbrushes. Like, and that's an advancement in technology, but they are personally able to paint better and have greater inspiration from not using paintbrushes. And some of these paintings are absolutely amazing. That's just an example of someone who shuns technology so that they can get inspiration to make something better. So do their craft better is what I should say. So if you put this person in a technologically based box, will they be able to develop the same quality of art that they did? That's my question.
Yeah, that's actually like a really good thought, because I get, obviously the quality of, mechanical parts are going to be better, be able to transmit information more efficiently. But can we ever truly recreate the human touch? Like, are you going to be able to play, like, let's say you play guitar, for example. Mm-hmm. Are you ever going to be able to play guitar with robot hands like you would have with your human hand?
I argue you'll be able to do so much better because we can give you extra fingers, and because they can move it, and they can move at a speed and a rapidity that is not possible with biological hands. Like all that crazy shit that people already do. Imagine that, but with like superhuman ability. Yeah, art will only become better. We won't lose that which makes us human. We will adapt. We'll become more than human. We won't lose the numinous. We won't lose the artistic and the soulful. We'll just become newer, better, more powerful creatures. It's like the X-Men.
Yeah, but
I said, but really only one way to find out.
Well, like I said though, like my whole, like I said, going back to like my whole thing is, how do we as a society truly deem who is more important than another? Because if we look at, it's like with the sanctity of life argument, like obviously there are some lines that have to be drawn. Obviously, somebody who, is a mass murderer is probably somebody we wouldn't choose for this immortality.
Exactly.
But
you're already doing it.
Yeah,
you're doing triage of the soul. When there's an emergency, when a massive earthquake strikes and 1 million patients get sent to the same hospital, the nurses have to decide very quickly what to do with a limited amount of resources. They have to say, look, that old man, it's not worth it to give oxygen to an 84-year-old man when I've got a 6-year-old child over here who has a potential to live like 84 more years worth of life. You have to make utilitarian decisions about the value of human life all the time. And it sucks because we're good people and we don't want to say like, hey, you're more valuable than that old guy, but that's really what we're doing. So you say like, who decides who's more valuable, who we keep? I think it's very obvious. I think that there have been scientists throughout time who have genuinely just displayed an ability to do something differently, and artists and just humans in general. There's just something special about them. Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, people who just genuinely, they just broke down the barriers of mathematical and scientific knowledge. These are the people that I would keep forever. Strictly utilitarian. Who is going to benefit the species?
Kevin, you're much more logical as a single individual than a group of people will ever be in selecting those.
That's true.
That are
yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, when it boils down to it, like I said, especially if we put some kind of regulatory board in charge of this, it's not going to come down to, is this guy Stephen Hawking? It's going, oh, well, this guy's, Jeff Bezos and's got a ton of money that can, further other projects. Like that's my biggest problem when we start picking and choosing who gets to live forever. The amount of corruption that goes along with that, because as a species we're selfish.
No, you're
like
right.
The fear of death is something, the fear of not being able to continue is what holds most people back from anything, or nobody wants to die. Like, I mean, well, relatively speaking, the majority of the population with a healthy functioning brain doesn't want to die.
Right.
People are either, because all fear goes back to that. Like, fear is not, I'm afraid of X. I'm afraid of X because I could die. Nobody's like necessarily afraid of water. They're afraid of drowning, which leads to death. Like, nobody's afraid of heights. They're afraid from falling from heights and dying. So we look at death as the number one motivator of fear. that that leads people to well, I'd be willing to kill my somebody having the ability to say, well, I would kill my neighbor for immortality, or I would do this for immortality, or I would sacrifice this, or bribe this, like, so when you say that a panel of people will pick and choose.
For the record, I never said a panel. I'm just saying
I'm going over
be picky. And if I could offer one thing to you, it would be that if we want to give everyone immortality, if we just want to open the markets and like if you can afford it, be immortal, we need to start colonizing other planets. We need to have an end game. We need to start filling up some other places because the finite resources on Earth ain't gonna last forever.
Well, sure. But like I said, though, going back, Chris, I think, was the one that suggested like a board of people to decide. But
I was just thinking hypothetically. I'm not.
I think he was saying that was I think he was saying, in his defense, I think he was saying that was a terrible idea.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. And that's, I guess I'm further elaborating on, because like I said, if I'm sitting on the board and somebody's like, hey, Stephen Hawking's, we really need to get him this immortality thing, and then I'm looking at my 5-year-old child going, do I want to give Stephen Hawking's immortality, or do I want to see my kid live forever?
Oh, even shadier. You'll be looking through your campaign donors list and be like, all right, who gave the most this month? Who's living forever?
Who was my mega donor?
Everybody knows that's what's going to happen. Or the thing is, it's like, what if a company starts up that has this board of directors that decides who gets to live forever in their supercomputer that they're going to make, and then people invest in it on Kickstarter? Well, all those people are going to get it first. You know what I'm saying? So so I'm kind of being cynical to my own capitalistic means here, but at the same time, because I know there will be several different companies, but what if there's I'm just being hypothetical with that. Springboarding off of what's up?
Can you imagine though the like scientific exploration that could come from that though? Let's say we could download the human conscience into a machine.
Yeah.
We could literally.
That's kind of relating to the point that I kind of want to make, is kind of springboarding off of your fear of death one. The fear of death in the sense of mortality also is people's motivation for productivity. Because you think like there's an expression, that's a day you'll never get back, or that's an hour you'll never get back, or something like that. So if people realize that we only have a limited amount of time on Earth, so Stephen Hawking has currently a motivation to try to come up with new stuff and try to be deliberate in his actions, because he knows that he doesn't have much time left on Earth. So if a person was put into an environment in which they were an immortal being, would they even have motivation to continue whatever work they were doing? Or would they just, read every magazine in the world?
You're asking about the psychological implications of living forever. Like, at what point do you just stop caring about helping humanity and you just become a worthless, forever living bum?
Yeah, why not?
I think no. Like, I would like to think that the fact that immortality without productivity would get ultimately boring. I mean, can you imagine knowing that you can live forever?
I'm not saying being productive. I'm not saying necessarily not being productive, but not doing what you did. Like,
oh, okay, gotcha. So like
I said, read every magazine ever written. Well, that's not necessarily not being productive, because you're expanding your existence of your mind. That's not necessarily bad. I mean,
right.
But
yeah, but that's saying that somebody's whole perception of life would change. Or
it might.
Yeah, it could.
I could see it too. I hadn't considered, but like, dude, if you put me in a situation where I was going to live forever, who knows what the fuck I would do? Why would I care about anything? Like, oh, well, I'm just going to go be a hedonist and just eat and get fat, and I guess never get fat. And
well, I don't know. I mean, I can see that, but I would like to think, like, if you gave somebody like a painter, I would like to imagine that if given the ability to live forever, obviously they wouldn't have to do anything in society. Yes, because obviously they don't need society to sustain them, because they are in fact immortal.
Right.
But at the same time, if that's your passion, would you really give up a truly unlimited amount of time to pursue a passion just because you had the unlimited time? Like, I would like to think, if I could paint worth a damn, that if I didn't have to be I didn't have to be a working class person and I could live forever, I would like to think that I would spend the rest of eternity painting. At least, when I say eternity, I would still reject any kind of notion of long-term immortality. I think when we talk about immortality at levels now, we're talking about maybe several hundred years at best. Like, I don't believe in eons of existence from the human race, no matter how it's gone about.
Bro, we're going to make a human form, probably not in our lifetimes, nowhere near, but we're going to make a human form so advanced that, we'll live thousands of years, forever.
Yeah,
like, the thing that's going to kill the species is going to be the death of the universe. We will outlive everything.
You know what's going to be shit about that, though? Like, if this happens, like, the day after I die. Like, that, I think I fear that. I think I literally fear that more than I fear death. Like, I fear that if I die right now, that in 2 hours, somebody's like, "Oh my God, we cracked the code! Like, no more death," and I'm gonna be sitting up on my little cloud, or sitting wherever I might go at the end of my existence. I'm gonna be sitting there and be like, "You asses! You couldn't have done this you had to go heat your hot pocket up and get behind. Like, you couldn't have got this done and knocked out of the way, and I could still be alive right now."
That begs an interesting question, though, is if immortality existed, would you want it? Would you pursue it?
Would I?
Yeah, what would you do with eternity? Would you wish to live forever?
Could I kill myself, though?
I suppose. I guess that's a good question.
I mean, I don't talk about me personally because I don't want to kill myself.
Obviously,
but like, if I get to be like 2,000 years old and I'm just like,
I'm bored.
You know what? I'm just bored. There's like nothing to do, because you can learn a lot of stuff in 2,000 years. And so
I would honestly say I think that's going to be the problem with pursuing immortality. I feel at a level the human experience is based on emotional connection, and sure, like, throughout your lifetime you're always going to make new friends, new things like that, but when it gets to a point, like, even though you're looking at several generations of family, like, think about the family that you would have grown up with now. Like, do you think when you hit that 100-year mark, when the rest of your family's dead, unless they claim the immortality too, do you really think that the same emotional connection would exist with future generations of your family to want you to pursue life further? I mean, look at the emotional toll that death in general, like singular deaths here and there throughout your lifetime, have on individuals. Can you imagine, still being alive when your parents are dead, your children are dead, your grandchildren are dead? Like, you're sitting on like fourth, fifth generation great grandchildren. Do you think that the human psyche could stand up to that?
To not know,
to constantly see death but never experience. Like, do you think like you could constantly go for hundreds of years seeing every single like I said, like, if we're just talking as a singular immortality, can you imagine seeing family member after family member after family member of yours dying and having to continuously live through that experience because you don't know death? I think that would drive somebody insane.
I think it would too, honestly, and there would be like like, people have survivor's guilt now, especially like a lot of people in the military. Why did my friends die but I didn't, kind of thing. And I don't know. I feel like if this were to occur, maybe instead of it being like where you are able to communicate with people that are alive now, it's more like